What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about two optics today. You get a 2-for-1. And that's going to be the Hex Optics, which is Springfield's in-house brand. And we're going to talk about both the offerings that they have come out with, which is going to be the Dragonfly, which is for the full-size setups like that XDM OSP. And then, of course, the Wasp, which is their micro-compact setup, like on the Hellcat RDP here. It's actually a pretty cool little setup. But there are definitely big differences in how both of these optics work, especially when compared to others out on the market. So they definitely need to be explained a little bit differently, but I really wanted to cover the brand themselves in one video so you don't have to watch more than one video, being that they're very similar in brand, but just different in functionality. Now, there are definitely some positives and negatives to these, and we'll get into all of that later. So how we're gonna do today's video is we're gonna take a really good look up close, go over the main specs. I'm not gonna get into some of the micro stuff that goes in there. You can check the manufacturer's site for that. We'll kind of compare the size of them next to each other. I will compare the size of them to an RMR because they are smaller than some other offerings out there in the full size kind of micro optic category, if that makes sense, a full size micro optic category. But being that we've got so many different sizes in optics between regular optics and you got micro optics, then you've got micro optics, I guess you could say now too as well. So we'll compare those specs up close, give you a good idea, talk about some of the LED things that are going on, the functionality, and then of course go over the range footage, how they performed out there, and then talk about the positives and the negatives of them. And today's video is brought to you by two sponsors. One of them is going to be Shall Not Comply, which brings all of the merch into the channel. Definitely check them out. Johnny and Emily over there, absolutely awesome people. They handle my merch, they handle the Gun Collective, they handle Guns and Gadgets, they handle Reno May out in Cali, which is a solid dude. If you're not following him for that 2A News and Guns and Gadgets as well, definitely check them out. Then of course, Blackout Coffee. So if you want to get that merch or get caffeinated, I'll leave links down below for that stuff. And I do have a coupon code for Blackout, it's TC10. Get you 10% off that caffeine, whether you want it in coffee or hot cocoa or some tea as well. We're gonna go ahead and get into the specs on these optics and talk about everything else right now. All right, let's go ahead and get into these two optics. We got Dr. Evil over here and Mini-Me on this side with the Wasp. And we're gonna go ahead and take the Wasp first. So what we're gonna do is just read the basic specs on this thing, then kind of take a look at it, and we'll talk about a few things here. So this is gonna be the micro optic, the Hex version, which is basically Springfield's in-house version. It's gonna have a 3.5 MOA dot, it's parallax free, or half MOA adjustments, 1x magnification. There's not any noticeable, magnification, you could say, when it comes to that glass, which is multi-coated. So you can see the different coatings on there, which is going to help with your hydrophobic or hydrophobic, which one? Hydrophobic, so it doesn't hold water. And then you're going to have obviously the anti-glare and the anti-scratch coating. So the battery life on here, since it's 100% auto, they say you get like 2 years of real use or 65,000 hours on that dot. So kind of depends on how you're using it, I guess. It could say if it rests at night or if it's moving, if you don't sleep and you move 24 hours a day, the battery's gonna not last as long. IPX7 water rated, so if you're underwater that long, that deep, you probably got bigger things to worry about. The housing itself here is made of 6061 aluminum, and then is the RMSC shield pattern. There are a few other things as far as weight and length and height and all that good stuff. If you're into something like that, just go ahead and check those specs out online. So let's take a good look at this thing and just kind of see what they've done. You can see you've got that Hex Wasp logo. The thing I really like about these, you've got some serrations built into it. So those are actually cocking serrations built into it on both sides right there. So you can really get a hold of it and work the optic, like the slide, because you're gonna have a little bit of loss of texture when you put an optic on there. You're gonna have a little bit more meat up there now with those. Going over the top, you'll see the glass is very nicely recessed in that hood right there. Good job, because if you go to work that slide off of something, that's gonna protect the glass. You'll have the Hex Wasp, you'll have an actual little wasp right there on both sides. So pretty neat little thing there. And like I said, the other logo. On the back here, you will notice that it does have those anti-glare kind of serrations both into the back end of the bezel that goes over the glass. Down there where the little, right there, that is your little kind of entry diode, I guess, that figures out what light brightness it is and auto adjusts it. Your screws, your dials for windage and elevation right there. You do have a valley, so you get to use the factory sights that come on the shield. Then you got more of those anti-glare serrations right back there in the back. Really quickly, let's talk about that dot. You'll see it blinking right there. So I'm shooting at a very high frame rate right now. All LEDs blink like that. We'll talk more about this later, but as I move that around, it becomes very apparent. So your eye will not see it like it's on camera right there until you do certain things. So we're gonna talk more about that in a little bit. Those are the basic specs there. So let's bring out the big boy. So this is going to be the Dragonfly, obviously, which is the bigger of the two. This is not fully auto, although it does have auto shut off. And we'll go through the basic specs again on this one. So 3.5 MOA dot on this. They say it's about a 3-year realistic battery life on runtime. Again, IPX7 water rated on that. So if you're underwater that long, that deep, you got bigger problems, right? Just like I said. You will get a Picatinny mount, you will get a ceiling plate, and you will get the screws and the wrenches. You'll get screws and the wrenches with the micro right there, but you'll get both plates here in case you want to run this on some kind of pistol. So again, parallax free. It is 1 MOA adjustments on here. You have 8 levels of adjustment and brightness, and you're going to have 6061 aluminum housing again, and it fits on the Vortex Venom Burris Fast Fire mounting setup. So if you have a plate or a slide milled for a Vortex, that's what this is going to go on. So again, let's talk about the body here. You can see again those nice cocking serrations on there, and they are deep. I mean, you can really get a hold of those things and work that optic. You have a single button design right there. Again, the hood is the same as the Wasp. You got a nice recessed area on the glass right there. And you've got a really good bevel right there. It's kind of hard to show, so as you catch an edge, you can actually use that to work that slide as well. Coming over the top, you're gonna have the Dragonfly logo. It's kind of, you know, squared off a little bit differently on the top right there. You have kind of 3 hard edges like that. Coming over the side, gonna be the same over here. Got your windage and elevation setups right there. You've got those anti-glare machine marks there, and you've got them again right here on the back of the optic as well. And then a small valley right there, so you can use those sights that come on the Springfield OSP to get a good iron sight picture still. So talking about the LED, there you go on this one. You can see it is solid even when you move it around. Very solid, no refresh rate issues on that. So overall good looking stuff. Let's go ahead and talk about range footage, how they performed. Did I find any issues? So let's go ahead and talk about the button here. I forgot to tell you how it works. So it's the on and off. You press and then press again and it'll turn off or on, or it goes auto off after 16 hours. And then when you turn it on, if you do the manual setting, it doesn't start at the brightest setting. It starts in the middle, goes down, and then goes all the way back up to the brightest setting. So that's kind of interesting, but that's just the way that works. So let's go ahead and talk about the range footage. Let's talk about all that good stuff, positives, negatives, so you have an idea if these are gonna work for you. All right, so now that you know those specs, let's talk a little bit about that range footage. So first off, what I did, especially with the Dragonfly and the Wasp here, is I do at home, I just stand at the furthest part of my home and I do a quick bore sight with one of those little laser bore sights. And that generally is gonna get you very close. On these ones, I generally try to do a 15 or 20 or even a 25 yard zero on my pistol optics that I'm gonna be carrying with me. Out on the range, just for ease of use and everything to get done, I did a 10 yard zero on both of these. So you definitely need to understand your holdovers when you start stretching out to a longer distance past about 25 yards or something. So when it comes to the performance of the optics out there on the range, the Dragonfly actually felt very nice with it. The glass is solid. It's definitely very clear. You don't get a ton of hewing or magnification. If you don't know, in all optics, you're generally going to see a little bit of a coloration change between your natural eye and looking through that glass. You're also going to notice a tiny bit of maybe not necessarily magnification, but kind of bending or something like that. You're going to see that on most optics because there's glass in there or plastic or whatever the optic is made out of. It's a little bit thicker than normal and you kind of will see a little bit. It's very minimal on these, which is quite good because some optics, it is very noticeable to the point where you even notice like a slight magnification. As far as going from target to target, it did perform quite well. It was easy to pick up. It was very natural to look through. Like the angles of it, but that single button just kind of left me wondering like, why? Now talking about that wasp, that little mini fella right there. So I like the design of this. I like where they're going with this. I'm not quite all the way warmed up to totally and 100% a fully automatic optics where you put the battery in, zero it, and then it shake awake, it goes to sleep without motion, and then it wakes back up with the shake awake, and then it auto dims, auto brightens, all that good stuff. I like some of it, but I just wonder how that technology is gonna do after getting a lot of rounds through it and stuff. So it was quite good. Even though it's a smaller optic, getting out there on the range, it is good to look through. It's the perfect height for the factory sights on there, but there's definitely something going on with the LED as compared to the Dragonfly, and it has to do with that refresh rate. You're gonna notice, especially if you're moving fast from target to target, or even if you just remember like those little laser pens you had as a kid, and you kind of go back and forth and make it one line. That's what a good optic or red dot should do. It should look like one line if you're, say, moving around fast like that. You're gonna notice some refresh rate on this one, which was a little bit odd, especially after not having that on the Dragonfly. I didn't have any problems as far as shutdown, flicker, none of the optics failed, they held zero. They did get pretty hot out there in the Arizona sun, just sitting on the bed of my pickup truck, even though it's not summertime yet. The sun out here, even when it's cooler, is just blazing hot, even when it's like 70 degrees. If you set something in the sun, it's going to heat up very quickly out here. So I didn't have any of those issues, but let's talk about some of the positives and the negatives for both of these optics. So for that Dragonfly, I really like the shape of the body. I like the fact that the glass is recessed up in here. I really dig the serrations that they put on the side of both of these. That is awesome, because if you have a malfunction come on over the top, right here, these ones are so deep and these ones up here are so deep that you can really get a hold of just the optic itself and not have to worry about coming off. On the Dragonfly, the dot was solid, the glass was good, picking it up was easy. There was one little thing as far as the negative goes, and that is the brightness. So it is kind of weird. The one button just kind of weird. So you press it and it starts at medium, and then you have to work your way down and back up. Even at the brightest setting in the Arizona desert on a sunny day, it's not very bright. So most people probably aren't gonna have a problem with that. One thing I did notice for sure is shooting in the blazing bright, high noon Arizona desert out here, that highest setting is just pretty dim, especially once you start stretching out, if that target is not really, really a contrasty color. Now, as far as the overall positives and negatives on that one, the Wasp right there. So if you haven't figured it out, they named this one the Wasp and that one the Dragonfly because they look very similar, but one's smaller than the other. So when it comes to the body, when it comes to the glass, I dig it. I like where they're going. I like what they've done. The fully automatic thing, I don't know. Not quite sold on that one. The battery life is supposed to be solid on both of them. I haven't had the chance to test the 50 or 100,000 hour battery life yet. They haven't been out long enough. Give me a break. So other than that though, the big buzzkill on it is that refresh rate. So if you have this out and there's any movement in you or going from target to target, you're gonna very quickly notice that light blinking. So again, when I talked about if you had like a little laser pen and you're going against the wall like this, it looks like just one circular line, right, that you're creating with that laser. When you do that with this dot, you're gonna see blink, 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 blink. And that has to do with the LED in there. So if you don't know, and like you saw in camera up here, all LEDs kind of have a blink. They have like a refresh rate. And the higher you shoot in a frame rate in a camera, the more you're going to notice that. So your eye will effectively pick that up when you are doing very quick transitions, or if you have any movement, say you're running and moving and doing all kinds of good stuff like in a competition, you're going to notice that blink, and that is an absolute buzzkill, because I really did have high hopes for this optic, because the micro optics like this, there's not a ton of them out there that are just really good right now because they are so new. There are some that are well known, like the Trigicon and all that. I have tested the Swamp Fox Sentinel, which I will leave a link down below, but there's just not as many of them out yet. But these are test groups of one, whether it's on the big hammer or on the little hammer. So if you haven't kind of noticed, those are very, very similar and look alike right there. Trying to make sure the camera focuses on them, not my face. So either way, if you have especially the Wasp, I really want to know what your experience is. Like I said, these are both test groups of one. I only have one of each, so you may have a completely different experience. These are on loan from Springfield. I probably should have said that at the front of the video. Both of these were sent out for me to play around with and test from Springfield, so thank you very much to them, because honestly, they're pretty cool. And I just wanted to get this video out on both of these optics so you guys had a really good idea, if you're ordering, say, the RDP, what to expect with that built-in optic. Well, that's what I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn those bell notification icons on. Give this video a like if you learned anything, thought it was good, or just appreciate what's going on here. Of course, check out Shall Not Comply for that Tactical Considerations merch, or if you're into the Gun Collector, for any of those other people, Reno May, all the people that are over there, Johnny B, all that good stuff that's going on. And of course, Blackout Coffee if you want the hot cocoa, the coffee, or the tea to get your caffeine on, or just maybe a little bit of relaxation in some of those different styles of tea if you are into it. You guys get out there, enjoy some range time. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I will see you guys on the next one.